Everybody, welcome to a new episode of Across the Pitch. We are just a shell of ourselves. I only have no words to say after this another loss from the. But I am joined by Jose Nunez and Todd Lewis. Happy to see you, Todd, as always. Jose, how you doing tonight?
Dude, can you believe what we just watched all 90 minutes? I think an ultimate exposure of I'm not making fun of Jim because I know this is a line that actually is true, right? And professional sports is all about the fine margins and the fine lines, but definitely seeing just how exposed this team is, both in depth but also up in the head in terms of finishing a game where in reality good teams make this a 2-2 draw at worst, right? But of course, in typical the Union way of 2024, they were able to make it a 4-2 loss. So yeah, not good as Mike logs in or reloads again. I know we lost him. Todd, what do you think about this, dude? What a disaster that was.
And dude, I texted you. I was like, "What a boring game!" And like that was at 2-2. And like, I mean, for people that know by now, I feel like the same people who watch or listen to my podcast watch and listen to you guys too. And so it's like trying to get clips for the goals breakdown. And I text you, I'm like, dude, there's not a lot of like really good chances by the Union. Not really many defensive uh plays by the Union in this game at the 2-2. And then the Union switched to 5 in the back, and that's when all hell breaks loose. And I I'm lost for words, honestly. I know and Jim was talking about in his press conference, which I'm sure we'll get into as well, which was a crazy press conference. And I still can't believe what we just heard. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, like Jim said, we felt the pressure by Montreal, and so we switched to a back five. But I kind of feel the opposite. Like I felt like the Union had a handle on things when they were playing four in the back. I don't know what the listeners think. I don't know what you guys think, but once they switch to that back five and we see Nate Harriel go as a center back once again, Nate is not a center back, and time again, we see that. And like I said, I mean, just all hell breaks loose once they go to a five in the back.
Well, see, that's the thing, Todd. We knew that the roster today was going to be limited, right? So, and also Todd Baribo had some sort of back issue in training, which of course Jim highlighted in the press conference as well. So I can see why maybe him out was maybe partially safety more than anything. But I really don't understand how this team can just shut off. Like, because they have, but they can't keep it up for that long. I don't understand it. But we try these experiments with players out of position, and it never seems to work out. And I just don't know when it's going to stop. That's the thing. When are we going to finally? We can't keep putting players in spots they're not supposed to be. And also, Daniel Godlock came in and was irrelevant for what, half an hour?
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong, and I just want to clarify. And Todd, I don't know if I heard it incorrectly. Mike, you were also in the press conference, but did Ty pick up a back issue during warm-ups? Warm-ups. Okay.
Warm-ups.
So that goes even further, and I got this, as I told you, both of you, I have this folder of just quips and little comments from players and even Jim Curtin about depth over the last couple of years. It goes to show, like, the depth on this team is just a non-factor, right? Because there's none, ultimately, right? When the Union have to play Ty Baribo injured through 76 minutes of a match and then pray that Olivia Mbaizo, who has dropped off the face of the earth, comes in and closes a game to 2-2, is just one of those, again, like, it doesn't get any clearer to us as media folks, but also fans of, like, this is what the Union have, right? And we're going to talk about the questions asked during the press conference. I know Todd's incredibly savvy with technology and able to play some of the clips, but it genuinely sounds, and I hope that there's an answer, though it seems bleak, that this is the roster that's going to ride out the rest of the season. So what people are seeing now is what they will see come, if they even make it to October, when the first round of the playoffs is, or I guess the week prior to that, when the play-in game is. So it's buckle up, I guess it's really what it comes down to.
Well, the problem is I'm looking at the lineup right now. I wanted to see who was even available on the bench for us. So we had Raffanello, Macania, Semele, and Olney. I mean, if we can't rely to come in for even 20 minutes, what's he doing on this roster?
They didn't even have enough for a full bench. It's like that's how bad things are right now. 5 players is all they had available on the bench. 5 players.
Yeah.
Or 6, sorry. I mean, if you want to count the goalkeeper, but
Well,
5 outfield players.
I declined. I declined the trip to Montreal, by the way, so I would have been number 7.
Hell,
Well,
I'm sure any fan would sign up right now. I mean, the Union I heard are going to have open tryouts on Monday because they're so desperate for players, especially in the striker department.
Well, Todd, I mean, you mentioned the keeper being that 6th person. Do you agree with Jim's decision to start Rick again?
I mean, after tonight, no. I mean, I think that's easy to say. The second set piece goal that the Union gave up, where Bryce Duke got the goal. Yeah, that
Was it
was
Bryce
really
Duke
bad.
or was it an
Yeah.
Elliott own goal?
No, it was Bryce Duke. They gave Bryce Duke the credited goal for that. Yeah, it was not good, like Jim Curtin says, where Martinez, I guess, throws off Andrew Rick and he kind of like flops at the ball and he gets nutmegged by the ball too, right? Am I not mistaken? He definitely got nutmegged there on that play. That I don't know. It's easy to say that Jim got it wrong, where you look after this game giving up 4 goals, but you got to remember, I mean, coming into this game, the Union had given up 10 goals in the last 4 games, something like that. So I mean, they're leaking goals, and I heard an interesting stat on the broadcast. The Union have played what 20 games, I think, now this season. They've given up multiple goals in 13 out of those 20 games. Insane. I mean, that's unheard of with this Union squad in the last couple of years. But now it just seems like it's normal. It seems like this is to be expected. And I joke with people all the time where they're like, "Oh, what do you think the score is going to be till today at Subaru Park?" And I say, "Yeah, I expect the Union to lose because I'm not confident." The one place I was semi-confident was on the road, and now you give up back-to-back 4 goals on the road in Cincinnati, and now against Montreal, and it's mind-blowing. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think Jim Curtin said it after the game against Charlotte. They played Andrew Rick because they wanted a spark, and then he mentioned it again in his midweek press conference again, saying that we started Andrew Rick because we wanted a spark. And if Jim Curtin was going for a spark again tonight, they definitely did not get that.
Well, I mean, I don't blame Jim for trying something different, and we've seen a lot of promise out of Rick already, but I listened to him in the press conference. I feel bad. I really have never seen him this just down and just monotone and just trying to go through the motions. And one of the things that fans have mentioned on Twitter, and if there's any sort of confirmation via videos or photos, whatever, I'd like to know as well. But several fans are saying now that for when they travel away, the players aren't even going over to kind of thank them, to kind of give them that gesture of thanks to the away supporters. So it just seems like the players are going through the motion. The team's going through the motion. The front office is going through the motions. It just seems like they're just going week by week, not really having any sort of passion behind what they're doing. And it's just obvious by the way they're playing. Jose, we have a game, Wednesday against Chicago. How do we even field a reliable roster that day?
And it'll be interesting because I
Yeah,
feel
well.
like, and Todd will be there if I recall, actually at the Chicago game. What will be really interesting is that by then I think we will find out who has and who hasn't made the Olympic roster. So that gives you an idea of what does probably the next few weeks look like. If there's 2, maybe 3 players who are going to be out of pocket, and those 2 being, I would think, Nate Harriel and Jack McGlynn, maybe Quinn Sullivan, though that seems like a huge stretch. So you remove your best right back, who has been forced to play center back, and then you remove Jack McGlynn, your best, left winger, left mid, whatever you want to call him at this point. What does this team do, especially when you look at the depth that is going on right now? And just, again, honestly, how good Jose Martinez and Venezuela have been. in that tournament, and they're going to continue to go. So if those two get called up and they have to leave for camp earlier than when the Olympics start, which I think is like, is it July 14th? I think when they actually start. I can't remember.
Yeah, it's like the second week.
So that's when the Olympics start. I don't know if that's when Olympic soccer actually kicks off. I would think so, considering that's a sport that takes a little bit of time to recover versus, whatever sprints and track and field, etc. Or when the sports actually play, you start to think about the bodies that are going to be continue to be missing. So it's I don't know what this roster, I don't know what this team looks like on Wednesday. Probably a rinse and repeat of what we saw tonight. Gazdag's back, and again, I just don't see how Venezuela don't. I mean, Venezuela still has the game. When do they play? Tuesday? I can't remember, but they have one more match yet within the group, and then they go to the next round anyways because they already qualified based on their 2 wins. So Jose Martinez is out of pocket a little bit longer. So it's the Jesus Bueno show, I guess, a bit longer yet. So it could very well just be a rinse and repeat and potentially even missing. I wouldn't think for Red Bulls, but shortly after Red Bulls missing, if they get called up, the Jack McGlynn's and the Nate Harriels.
And
So,
listen, and Bueno,
Venezuela. Sorry,
go-
sorry, Mike.
no, go ahead.
Venezuela plays tomorrow at 8 p.m. against
Okay.
Jamaica, and then the first game in the Olympics for soccer is Wednesday, July 24th.
Okay, so I would think that they probably have some sort of warm up game leading into it, probably 5 days before the actual first game, just to give recovery. So at that point, you're looking at the 19th for that first game. So then you try to incorporate the guys a couple of days earlier as well. So I don't know, man. I think you're genuinely looking at maybe Red Bulls being the last game next weekend, which I won't be at, unfortunately. So it's tough. This team continues to get hit with, and it's part of success, right? When you have players who get called up to represent the Olympics, which is an incredible honor, but you also get players to represent their nations, which again is an incredible honor at the Copa America or the Euros. It's just tough. And I go back over and over and over again to Andre Blake saying, time will tell if this roster's built to sustain the international games. And that just, I think games like today and what the fans have witnessed over the past couple of weeks, complete showing of just how unprepared this team and roster is to sustain the global game. And thank goodness that there was an announcement, I think, that during the World Cup, MLS will actually stop.
So, Jose, if you could bring up a couple comments. I mean, I see Janice joins us saying outcoached every single game. Vince is saying the flint is dull and the kindling is soaked. No spark can light this fire. Other comments, Steve joins us as well, that their play is reflective of their morale. Sean mentions the team finally realized they have no support from ownership after seeing the bench tonight and quit. So I'm thinking about as well, too, you mentioned the players going in and out. If Ty Baribo has any form of back injury right now, I hate to say this, but I wouldn't play him on Wednesday against Chicago. And I know that puts us into a bigger hole, and you're being forced to use a bunch of Union 2 players basically to fill that void. But at this point, you need to salvage one player you had that's relatively healthy. Carranza's gone. Ua's out for 2 to 3 weeks, if not more. Bedoya's gonna be gone for a while. So health-wise, this team needs to hold on to whatever they have. And we already saw them be careless with Andre Blake, bringing him back too early. You can't have Ty Baribo gone for an extra month and a half because he gets re-injured because he's not ready to play. So, I mean, I'm sure the fans don't want to hear that, but the reality is you have to think long-term here. This team isn't built to make it through the season. You have to sacrifice the Chicago game for Ty's sake to make sure he can play the next week and weeks afterwards. At least in my – I don't know. Todd, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you mentioned it, Mika Ua, for fans who didn't see it. It's out 2 to 3 weeks because he has a adductor strain that he suffered against Charlotte last week. And I don't know. I mean, you hit the nail right on the head where the Union seemed like, kind of rushed Andre Blake back, wasn't fully healthy and winds up getting hurt even more with a knee injury. He suffered with a groin injury and then the knee injury against RSL. And yeah, we see how long Andre's been out for. Yeah, I mean, there's back injuries can be nagging. And so, I mean, you don't have Julian Kranza. You don't have Mikal Ura for 2 to 3 weeks. don't want to risk any further injury. And we also saw that Marcus Anderson didn't travel with the group. If I'm not mistaken, he had a little knock, a hip injury, and so he didn't travel with the group. And so if Marcus can't go on Wednesday, that leaves you with legit one striker Wednesday night against Chicago and Chris Donovan. And oh, I mean, what more can you say?
Come on up, Mr. Davis. Come on up from
Maybe.
Union too.
Who was that guy they drafted, Jose, in the draft this January? The striker. Putting you on the spot. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're putting me on the spot. He played for Penn. He sat at Real, Central New Jersey.
Somebody in the comment section let us know.
Yeah, no, and he's not. He can't. He doesn't have a contract in any way, shape, or form. But no, it's just fascinating. Again, like it's not going to be Davis, and it's not going to be Soriano, who just I think it's Soriano who just joined Union 2. I know Vince is probably our go-to for Union 2 stuff. But like, man, like also if I hate to put like I don't know if players listen to this or follow our stuff, but like if you're Jeremy Raffanello, like you look at this game and it's just like, brother, why am I not going in? Like, what are we doing here? We're playing an injured Ty Baribo and subbing in Olivier Mbaizo to try to salvage a draw. Like, what are we doing? Like, why can't I get in? What haven't I done? Should I have just stayed at Penn State a little bit longer? I don't know. It's bad.
And that's the thing too, is it's not like the Union are still trying to figure it out, and we've only lost maybe a game or two. I mean, they're fully on the downswing. They are hitting rock bottom every week, and when you think they're at rock bottom,
I'll be right back.
Opens up even more, and there's a further rock bottom below that. So at this point, you have a bunch of subs. Why not just bring Raffanello in for the hell of it? Why not at this point, you have nothing to lose. You really have nothing to lose. I'd rather see players who don't get minutes go out there and give it their all. And if you lose 6-2 in the process, at this point, does it really make a difference? I don't think it does. You have to try something different besides, well, we have Olivier out there and we have, Gazdag out there. Let's just try to, make it work. It's like, well, it's not working. And Gazdag, again, like I said earlier in the show, was fairly irrelevant, which is not new, unfortunately. We've seen a lot of moments where Daniel is great, and there's times where he just disappears. And I feel like in a night we needed a playmaker, he wasn't at all a playmaker. Todd, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, you were going 50-50. Will Daniel Gazdag start because he played 3 minutes. That's all he played at the Euros with Hungary. And his flight gets delayed Thursday night. It arrives in Newark at 11 p.m. And so that means that, you're not going to start him because of jet lag and all the different emotions of not really playing during the Euros. And so Jim Curtin saying, yep, he's going to come off the bench Friday at practice, according to Joe Tanzi. And that's exactly what we saw. And so you look at that bench. I mean, that's how we started the show, literally talking about the options on the bench. And so the Union didn't really have many options off of there to create a spark. And the one player that you would hope provide that would be Daniel Gazdag. But here's the thing to me, again, and I'll go back for people. I don't know if you guys have been here the whole time or if you guys are just joining us, but like the Union, I thought it was comfortable 2-2, and everything goes downhill in the 76th minute when you take off Baribo, and it looks like you're playing Gazdag and Sullivan up top. I mean, the formation, I couldn't really tell what it was. Maybe somebody in the chat better understanding. I mean, it was confusing, but I know you played 5 in the back because that's when you brought in Olivier Mbaizo. And when that happened, I mean, I knew it wasn't going to go good because this team cannot play 5 in the back. Olivier Mbaizo, fans know this. I'm not a fan. He's not a defender. I mean, he looks lost out there. Jose posted a clip on Twitter of where he just wants the ball to roll out. The ball is not rolling out, and now the Union are pinned back in their own half. And that's exactly what happened when you went to 5 in the back. The Union had no outlet pass, and so Montreal knew that. They were pushing players forward. They were pushing their center backs forward, almost up to the halfway line. And so keeping the Union pinned down. And when you don't have that outlet pass, it's going to be difficult. And so you take away that extra midfielder, and I don't know. It makes no sense to me tactically why Jim Curtin would do that. And I know he said, oh, well, it seemed like Montreal was all over us. And so we thought that, to stabilize things, we'll go to 5 in the back. But again, I thought the Union had control of things in the second half when they were playing the way they started the game with the 4 players, and then you switch Nate Harriel to a center back, you switch Bizo as a right back, and yeah, you get 0 defense from Olivier Bizo.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, so I'm going to read some more comments again because they're flooding in. So for the people who usually sees their comments posted on the screen, I'm on my phone right now. Jose's the one running the studio. So
And he left, so
and
everybody
he
blame Jose.
we're technically producerless right now, so we're just going to carry the show. But I'll read the comments as I can see them on my screen. Valerie, our good friend Valerie, mentions, I feel like how Miguel Reyes myself looks. I'm like, and you're right, Valerie. I look tired, and this team is tired. We're all tired at this point. Janice says Flock looks lost out there. Chris is becoming more frustrating being a Uni fan each week. I 100% agree. Evan mentioned it looked like a 5-3-2. Did you agree with that, Todd? Do you think that's what the formation was with that?
Yeah, I know they started the game in a 4-4-2 flat, so I mean, maybe that's what they continued it as. But honestly, I mean, once Daniel Gazog went out there, I mean, he didn't look like he knew he was playing at all. And then you eventually switched to 5 in the back. So yeah, I mean, he might be right. I don't know. The formation, the players look so confused out there.
They do, and I think to Valerie's point, and she mentioned another comment, we could have used defenders to get 1 point even more than we needed a playmaker. And that's the thing, is you have a defender on the bench in McCanya. If you know that the team is in Montreal is really taking it to you, which is what Curtin mentioned in the press conference. The second half, they just kind of took control of the game. They were taking to you. You need to be able to rely on your players that you have. Simple as that. Whether you trust them 100% or not, you have to throw McCanya out there and try to that game if you feel they're attacking you that much. But Todd, to your point, I was getting bored. Like 85th minute, I was like, all right, is this game over yet? It's 2-2. Look like they're going to close out for a draw, and then they just end up not being able to hang on again for the countless time that we've seen this season. So I don't know. You can question Jim and all in hindsight because of the result, but at the same time, these players just have to get it done. I mean, these are still professional MLS players who have a lot of experience together, and that's one thing that we mentioned earlier in the season too. Is this team has so much chemistry together. For them to fall apart this constantly is almost what worries me the most. And Jose, I mean, I don't know if you're back officially with us, if you can hear us at all. Do you agree with how broken this team looks chemistry-wise? Because they just look like they can't even get on the same page.
Yeah, it feels like something's missing, right? And obviously you, myself, Todd, and frankly, the 18, 19,000 people that pack Subaru Park right now have no idea what's actually happening within the 4 walls of that locker room. And yes, we got sort of a look in our mind's eye through curtain of like, Andre Blake and Alejandro Bedoya just being, big pieces in these conversations leading into games like this, but ultimately something seems to be missing. Something seems to be not clicking, and like kudos to Julian, right? Like, yes, a move that should have probably happened sooner.
Yep.
Never mind, like jumping ship at the right time, because obviously this was not a ship that he was going to stay on that was going to keep his value, right? Never mind a move that would have had him loaned back. At that point, you're just keeping a band-aid on a really bad injury, probably a broken bone through skin. So yeah, it seems like something's missing, and there's no, and this sounds like curtain, and I'm so sorry, but it has to do probably with me listening to the man so much, but like what it's going to take to turn it around is either infusion of new blood in terms of bodies coming in, which seems and feels very unlikely from ownership to spend. Maybe there's a very, I don't know, financially savvy way or cheap way for them to do it, which at that point you almost question, like, why did you even bother? Either infusing new bodies in, new blood to turn it around, or ultimately this group just finishes the season as is, and maybe they muster together 2 or 3 more wins and turn it around. But I spoke about this with Meg Swanek of her Substack when we did a little podcast. I don't know if it's posted yet or if it we're post at this point, honestly, but like
When I looked, I didn't see it.
that's okay. But like it's almost to the point where, like, man, like, is the team then putting all chips at this point in the season into Leagues Cup, the only viable way for them to play continental soccer? They're not going to win MLS Cup unless they go on a crazy run during the postseason, if they even qualify for it. Um, and is Leagues Cup sort of like their way to just I don't even know, like extract as much money as possible. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I just don't know what they focus on at this point because it feels like playoffs are just and granted, what is it like? What's the stat, Todd and Mike? Like 62% of teams make playoffs, and at this point, it
Yeah.
feels like the Union won't even be that in that 62%, which is mind blowing. Like only one win ahead of where New England is, I think, or like 2 wins at this point. Like it's really bad. It's really, really bad how low this team is. I mean, Montreal was just about at the basement of the Eastern Conference, and the Union just lost 4-2 to them.
So here's the thing, too. You mentioned Jose, and I'm going to read one of the comments as well. They're mentioning how if we wouldn't play Craig, why would we expect him to play Macania? Which is a great point. There seems to be such a lack of trust in Macania. Same thing you can say with Sanders down in the Union too. He hasn't gotten any time with the first team as well. But how about Berdesio? Like, I mean, Jose, you're Bolivian, brethren right there. It's like, are we ever going to see him at all? These players are brought in like Anderson, and they just seem like they're all Union 2 players, and they're not ever going to actually see considerable minutes in the first team. But even with this summer window that we've been talking about, and I know Tansy and Tanawal have asked Jim, oh, well, do you expect them to bring anybody in? Even if they bring anybody in, is it really going to make a difference? I mean, we've seen it already with the Union time and time again. They bring somebody in over the summer or mid-season, and they just sit on the bench, or they don't contribute, or they take forever to get acclimated to the system. So it just seems like it's irrelevant whether they brought in somebody or not. It's not like they're going to just automatically be a plug and play. And that's what we need. We need plug and play players. And there's nobody there to be to be plugging and playing right now, at least in my opinion. But Todd, I mean, what do you think Berdesio or Sanders get some play in Chicago or anything in the immediate future just to spice things up a bit?
Hell no.
I like the honesty.
I mean, come on, dude. I mean, I haven't watched a lot of Union 2 games, but sorry, Jose, but Berdesio has got cooked so many times this year.
Awful.
Ngabo, Macania, those guys already. I mean, I mean, they've been asked about both of those players, Macania and Ngabo, and Jim said, you gotta dominate the academy, and once you do that, then you get promoted to Union 2, and if you dominate in Union 2, then you get promoted to the first team. Dude, I mean that's a bunch of crap. It's like that I get, it's the Union way. This is the way that we want to do things, but do you honestly believe that, like, that Macania and Gabo are going to dominate? And okay, well, now we're going to give them their chances with the first team. It's like you were bleeding for somebody to help, and they're not going to help. They're Jim Curtin's not going to rely on these guys. I mean, if that was going to be the case, if Jim Curtin really wanted to play five in the back, then there's no reason why. You should have brought in Olivier Baza. You should have put Macania out there and had him natural center back. You should have played Harry as a right wing back, and he doesn't do it. And I think that's all you need to know, that Olivier Bazo is more trusted than Macania coming off the bench and playing Nate Harriel out of position as center back. That tells you everything you need to know how Jim Curtin feels about Macania. There is something I know and that we talked about, something needs to change. And if you guys don't mind, I'll play the clip. And shout out to Joe Tanzi, Jose Nunez, and Jonathan Tannenwald for asking like really difficult questions. And it all started with Jose, and I was shocked that
Who did it start? Who did it start with?
Jose Martinez. Jose
Oh, okay.
Nunez. Jose Nunez. But yeah, Jim Curtin was asked after the game by Joe Tanzi, do you feel like your job's in danger? And this is what Jim said.
Look, I know what I've done at the club. I know the highs that we've had in the last 6 years. Those are great, but it is a what have you done for me lately business. So again, there's always pressure. You always have to try to improve and get better. Right now, we're in one of our toughest stretches we've ever been in. Again, the guys that aren't here aren't going to get us out of it. So the players that aren't here due to international duty, due to injuries, aren't here. So once we get that full slate of guys back, I'm confident we have a really strong group. But that's the reality of things right now. So yeah, there is always pressure to do better, to find a way to get a win. Right now, things are tough.
Yeah, I mean that's a crazy quote right there. I mean, it's a what did you do for me now business. I mean, Jim's not wrong, right? I mean, we've discussed, what Jim Curtin's done with the team with the limited options he's had, and look, I mean, he takes a team to MLS Cup with limited spending in 2022. I mean, Jim Curtin hasn't had a lot of options, and he's doing the best with what he can do. And I get it, right? I mean, it seems like every week they're talking about this on CBS Golasso. Is Jim Curtin's job in danger? And the argument is, well, Jim Curtin's done it before. Why isn't he doing it now with limited players? But I think part of it is, again, it's like it's been the same group since 2021, 2022, really, when the team went to MLS Cup. And you look around MLS, literally everybody else is getting better, and the Union are staying the same. I mean, I feel like we're going insane. It's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again. And we continue to have the same conversations of the Union just need to invest, but they're not going to invest. And nobody should be shocked. Nobody is shocked that the Union are struggling with the same group. And I don't know. I mean, I don't think Jim Curtin would be fired. I think that would be harsh, but I do think there's got to be some kind of shakeup, and I don't even know if that shakeup's Ernst Tanner getting fired. I don't think Ernst Tanner would get fired. And it's like, okay, if you're not firing the head coach, if you're not firing the sporting director, then whoever you fire, whoever you let go of, it's not really going to make that much of a difference. It's not going to give you that spark. So I don't know. Maybe nobody does lose a job, but Jim's right. It's like, he's not getting the results, and it's a little bit unfair with all the injuries they have, all the players are away with different competitions. But the same thing, and Jose and I have had this conversation multiple times every week. Like, this team has known for years, not even just this year, for years. They knew that Copa America was coming up. They knew that the Olympics were coming up, that there was going to be a possibility they'd miss players. Why didn't they invest better in the offseason? And that's where some fans can say this is on Ernst Tanner for, not bringing in better players. But then Ernst would say, I'd bring in better players if Jay gave me more money. So I mean, it's a lot of blame. It's nobody's going to take the blame themselves 100%.
No, I think ultimately it's going to come down to ownership, because you're right. Jim can only play with the players he has. Ernst can only spend or find or sign with the money he has. So it's all connected together. I think ultimately you have to blame ownership. Some questions are being asked. One by Evan in particular. He says, I'd like to ask a serious question. What does the academy produce? Brendan Aronson and Mackenzie, I see, are homegrown. They have both flat. One is stuck in Belgium, another stuck in the championship, who went out on loan, who essentially did nothing. So what has the academy essentially done? It's not a bad question. And I think as we've grown as Union fans further away from the 2022 season.
Where the hell is this question? I want to
What?
read that again.
Which one?
The one that you just read.
Okay, so I'll read it again for people.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just an idiot who's had too much bourbon. I'm sorry.
Evan says, as the academy produced, Brendan Aronson and Mackenzie, I'd say, are our top homegrowns. They have both flatlined. One is stuck in Belgium, the other stuck in the championship, who went out on loan, who essentially did nothing. So what has the academy essentially done? I think the Union way, as Todd mentioned, the Union way is to build the academy, grow these players, and sell them, and have prospects, and use that money for opening a bar next to the Sons of Ben tailgate. That's basically the Union way of doing things. But the problem is that key way of doing things isn't really as, we're not as proud about it when the first team's not really doing anything. So to say what has the academy essentially done, I think the academy has done a lot. And I think the academy has put the Union on the map. And the academy has produced young, promising teams. Like we saw them win, what's it called? The Generations Cup, right? This past summer or this past spring, whatever it was. So we've had shining moments from this academy. We just don't care anymore about it. That's, I think, what it comes down to. We've seen other successes, and now it's time for the first team to succeed, and it's just not. And the other one question that was asked, Sean says, what coach can come in and win with this roster as it sits? I don't think any coach could come in.
Nobody.
If Jim can, nobody can.
Maybe Nancy could maybe have a spark when he's on with Columbus, but
You're not wrong, but listen, I want to go back to Evan's question, and Evan, thank you so much for hopping on with us idiots at 10:41 at night, so late into the evening on a Saturday. But I would be careful with the Mark McKenzie. That's a man that started all 32 games for Genk, sixth place in the Belgium league. Sure, not not the Premier League, not France, not Italy, not Spain. I get that, but ultimately he's a good player. Is he being utilized to his full potential in the U.S. men's national team? I would say no. When you have 37-year-old Tim Ream starting over him, that's just an opinion. So I would just be a little careful with that comment on him. I think he's been good, but honestly, the academy has done what it's supposed to do, which is either create talent that can hopefully make its way to the union, or if it's good enough, be sold abroad to make money, which is what it's done, and line the pockets of the ownership group, which is absolutely what it has done in terms of the Aronson brothers. My gosh, they hit the skate button on those two right away. Never mind Mark McKenzie, Austin Trusty, the Sullivan, Cavan, often gone by Caven by some in the press as well, which is absolutely incorrect. So please, everybody, it's Cavan. Do
You gotta
better.
take this guy off the mic. He's gonna say something reckless.
No, but ultimately, it's because the academy has technically done what it's supposed to do. But I think what this club needs to get used to, and I think it's actually more of the front office, is being okay with mercenaries coming in and team where you're not just relying on 18, 19, 20-year-olds, and you have a 26, 27, maybe a 28-year-old, 29-year-old come in. And I know I just went from basically 20 to 30, but like being okay with an older profile player to come in and chip into the team versus having to rely on super young players to do their thing and hopefully pan out before they get sold. So it's such a tough balance. And to the other question, if it's not Jim, who? Honestly, it's Jim, and Jim has done so much with this. And I love the analogy that um, who used it over at CBS? Funny guy from New York, Todd.
Alexis Guerrero.
Yeah, Alexis Guerrero, who said, Jim has made a cake out of crumbs with this roster, and that is absolutely true when you think about what he's had to work with in 2022 specifically, and never mind the years prior. So it's such a tough situation that this team in. I don't envy Jim. I don't know how you get these guys excited when they get back to Philadelphia or Chester or whatever for practice. They probably have off tomorrow, come back on Monday. Like, what do you say to these guys on Monday to try to get them excited again? You know what I mean? Like, I do not envy that job whatsoever.
I mean, you're not really practicing because you go again on Wednesday, so it's like you can't have a full practice. So you're looking at film, you're looking at, how you want to set up against Chicago. You're hoping to rest and recover, and you go again on Wednesday, and then you go again on Saturday against Red Bulls, who are going to come in here and wipe the floor on the Union. I forget what the winning streak is against the Red Bulls, but wasn't it something where Jim Curtin last year during League's Cup was like,
Yeah.
for a team that's lost so many times to us in a row or something like that, they need to learn to keep their mouth shut or something like that. I forget exactly what the quote was, but yeah, it was pretty spicy from Jim. And now we're looking at a guy who's pretty much broken, and I don't blame him. I mean, the players, I'm sure if we had the chance to talk to them tonight, they have the same look that Jim Curtin's had the last couple games. It's like, what more can you say? What more can you ask? And it's not going good. And the one thing, since we're talking about the academy, and I'm sure this will get the comment section going, is I'm kind of getting sick and tired of the Union taking credit for us having the best academy in MLS, where in all reality it's no good scouting by the Union, sure, but it's kids coming from prior academies that are bearing the fruits, not so much the Union's academy, I would say. And it's getting kind of ridiculous that the Union are, touting, we have the best academy. Look at these players that we develop. Like, no, it's these clubs that you're taking these kids from that are doing all the developing at the early age. One, finding these kids at a young age. The only thing I'll give the Union credit for is, scouting these players and getting them to the Union's academy. But I would argue, it's not that hard to do, where the Union have proven that, okay, you come to our academy, you get a chance if you're good enough with the first team, and, we'll get you sold to Europe. And I know it's not been a whole bunch of players, but the Aronson brothers, the Mark McKenzie's of the world, Austin Trusty, I know did leave the academy and leave the first team to go to Colorado. And, Colorado's owning Arsenal. So then he gets moved to Arsenal, then goes to Birmingham, if I'm not mistaken, then Sheffield United. So it's like, okay, yeah, the Union have had players leave from the academy to the first team and eventually get to Europe. And so I think that's a big selling point for a lot of these players that, hey, look, they've done it for a couple players here. Maybe I'll be the next one. So, yeah, I would argue that the Union's academy isn't really as good as they make it out to be.
God, some fighting words. Todd Lewis. I love it. So I forgot that the Red Bull were coming to town on Saturday, right? The most Union thing in the world would be that we break the curse of Union yards against the Red Bull and just like
6-0 win,
and then just lose out again, like the 4 in a row afterwards. And sometimes that's what you need, is to face an opponent that you feel comfortable with and just like kick their ass a little bit. I just don't see it happen. Problem. I don't see it happening anytime soon. And we still have a whole half of the season to go. I know, Jose, you and I talked about a week and a half ago, like, yeah, we should do like a mid-season review. And it's like, we still have months of soccer to go. And I don't have the energy to watch it every week. I frankly don't. I don't think the players have energy to play it every week. And I to your point, Jose, I don't envy Curtin at all, in the slightest bit. And I do think his job is safe. I think he makes it at the end of the season at the very least, unless something catastrophic happens. But again, I don't know. Go ahead, Jose.
When this Leagues Cup started, July 25th through August 25th. It's pretty tight month of games. Todd, you unmuted. Is it July 25th when it starts? Or are you clicking clacking right now?
Yeah, I'm clicking clacking.
Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's July
26th.
25th. Yeah, 26th. So there's about a month of soccer left, and at that point, if it continues to go this way with draws and losses, it's at that point again, does it come down to the Union just leaning into Leagues Cup as the only way, and not that they're in any financial trouble, I don't think, but like continental soccer is pretty important for recruitment, right? When you can say that you're playing in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, like that's a good selling point for players to come in and recruit, etc. But then again, the Union are not recruiting players that maybe value that a whole lot, so it's maybe a null point in that way. But to me, this streak screams going to Chicago and losing, but then coming back to Subaru Park, hosting New York Red Bulls, and somehow squeaking by, a 1-0 win. And gosh, imagine a 3-0 throttling of New York Red Bulls at home. What that would do for the fan base, right? Or those that show up, anyways. I'm really intrigued. And again, I won't be at the game. If you need 2 tickets, let me know, free of charge. I'm more than happy to pass them along. But like, what does the fan base look like on Saturday after this result? And who knows what happens on Wednesday, Todd, when you're over in Chicago at Soldier Field, right? What does this fan base look like on Saturday evening? It'll be really interesting.
The only thing I'll say about Chicago is Jose and I have a piece coming out in a week or so. And I hope the 2 players that I try to talk to are in a mood to speak regardless of the result. So that's really all I care about. Hopefully, I get the chance to ask these 2 players that we need to speak to for this article. And yeah, let's hope that the Union could get a point, but I don't know. I mean, like, I just don't feel confident in this group. And I said it at the beginning that the only place I felt confident with the Union was on the road, and you've given up back-to-back games on the road of 4 goals. And I don't know. I don't think, no matter where the Union go, I don't think people are confident.
No, I not. Janice said Union been to the game to go from Chris. Valerie's going to show. I told Val the Union are better on the road, and they'll somehow find a way to like squeak into the bottom of the table for the playoff, and those road win their way to Eastern Conference Finals. And that was before tonight's result. And now, to your point, Todd, I feel less confident that than I did about 3 hours ago. So I don't see this being a good result. And to be honest with you, maybe Red Bull beating us at Stewart Park, like a real 4-0, just like throttling, might be what does it. Maybe that's the day Jim gets fired and ownership's had enough. I don't know.
To be clear, none of us are saying we want Jim Curtin to be fired.
No, I agree with Todd. I think Jim has to your point and media's point. He has done so much with so little. Has he made a lot of mistakes? Yes. Granted, sometimes he's forced into those mistakes because of the roster he has. But we love Jim. He's a great guy, great coach. We don't want to see him gone. But as Sean says, he's a scapegoat. He is going to be the one who takes the fall.
That's why I keep saying this is on me. As a coach, as a leader, I take the blame.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a coach that's never going to blame his players. And, he's a coach that he's never going to blame front office. And the day he'll blame the front office will be actually, I don't even think, whenever Jim leaves the union, I don't even think Jim, he'll be asked about it after it. And I think he has way too much respect for Jay Sugarman, for Ernst Tanner, for the union organization as a whole. I don't think he would throw anybody under the bus, honestly. He's not that type of person.
No, he's not. And you know what? Also, we're talking about, we're blaming a lot of people, right? We're blaming the coach, front office, Ernst Tanner, Sugarman. But, like, how about the players? Eventually, the players have to take responsibility for themselves. Like, we always hear, like, this team went through a tough patch, so they had a team-only meeting or whatever it might be. I don't know if you guys have heard things inside the locker room.
Yeah, I think Jim said that during the week that LA and Andre Blake were leading those meetings this previous week.
I'm gonna just say, are the players responding to that then? If these players are leading the meetings, and we saw Julian have a pretty impactful second halftime speech at home a few weeks back. I think it was against NYCFC. I can't remember the team he played against. He scored that free kick right afterwards after he had that halftime speech. You see Alejandro and Blake having these, as you said, these meetings. Are the players then responding to that? Do they feel like that is enough to get them through this thing? Because Curtin says already, the only one who can dig ourselves out of this mess is us. Well, then that goes to the players. If he's putting the burden on them, then are they actually responding to that urgency behind it? And I don't see it right now, and especially not after these last couple losses. How can you say that they're responding well to it? Jose?
I don't think that they are. That's just it, right? Like it's the insanity of doing the same thing over and over again with the same roster and the same body of people, and you could trace this back again, and not to rehash the madness, but like since 2022 and even 2021, honestly, with the way that this roster hasn't flipped over, and again, Todd sort of teased it a little bit, the article that we're working together, but as we've done some research, especially these last 5 years, this team has not really flipped in a serious way whatsoever. Sure, they've been external pieces that, the Riascas of the world or sexy seasons of the world that have come and gone and gone elsewhere, but like in reality, this team has been the same year over year. And I think someone said it, and it might be Janice who said it. And Janice, thank you so much for joining us and sticking with us through 10:58 already. Yeah, almost 11. What could Jim do? And this is a real question. What would Jim do with I hate to say a real roster, but like a roster of players that he actually, I don't want to say wants, but like, if he requests a player, maybe it happening, or like not. I think today a perfect example, a bench that is far more than suboptimal, right? When you have CJ Olney, Raffanello, all the way through Macania, just not a like, what could Jim do with a team that actually has depth? That's what I'm most intrigued about and would be excited to see. And unfortunately, I don't know that's a team that Philadelphia will ever have anytime soon within the next 2 years before Jim has to make a decision on his contract.
Well, look no further than Cincinnati. I mean, there's a reason why Chris Albright wanted Jim Curtin for that job before he went with Pat Noonan. I mean, it was reported that Jay Sugarman had approaches from Chris Albright to take Jim Curtin to Cincinnati. And Pat Noonan, a hell of a coach. And, I've said it before too, where I think, for all the people that want Triple G gone, which hopefully it happens after Copa America, I wouldn't be shocked if the U.S. looks at Pat Noonan, and that might be wild. And I know he doesn't have the biggest sample size as a head coach, but he has experience with a full national team, being an assistant under Bruce Arena. He's a very, very, very smart coach, and to see him have a quick turnaround in Cincinnati, I mean, these guys were the laughing stock in MLS, and I do believe if Jim Curtin went to Cincinnati, he would have had the same effect that Pat Noonan did, and
If
that's a
not
credit
better.
to. And that's a credit to, yeah, if not better, that's a credit to the scouting that Chris Albright does, which, might be a little bit telling too, that people say, Ernst Tanner really hasn't hit on these transfers the last couple of windows. Well, part of that reason is Chris Albright's not at the club anymore. So how much of an impact did Chris Albright really have at the Union? I think that's a valid question to ask. And maybe we're seeing that now. But I have no doubt that if Jim Curtin was in Cincinnati, that he would be lighting the league on fire. And I think fans agree with that too.
What's funny? I've compared him to I've compared Curtin to Reed before a few times, like between Jose or just like on Twitter or whatever. Like Jim Curtin reminds me of Andy Reid a lot in the sense that he sometimes makes poor in-game decisions. He's playing on the ball. I feel like some of his Curtin had issues with adjustments. He's been here. Reed was here forever, and sometimes he just an experience. And you will. I think that's Jim. I was commenting. We love a lot of stuff. I think he needs to get out and go to another franchise and just start over. And whether it's a club like Cincinnati or any other team you can think of, Chicago. I know he's got ties with the Fire, right? Go to Chicago, wherever. Just for Jim's sake, I think he needs just a fresh start. And then the Union and you get a fresh start, and maybe that would be enough for the Union to get something going down the road too. I don't know. There's a lot of questions that need answering. And Valerie says, "Have we fallen in love with this roster because of our familiarity with them and their entertaining personalities that we can't see past this roster to a winning roster? Maybe it's hard for the franchise to see past that as well, and they're kind of just hoping this sticks because it's such a great group of guys. I don't know."
Janice brings up a good comment too. She said, this streak has shown how much value Blake is to the team and the defense. And, Jim Curtin's talked about so many times, how good goalkeeping saves you between 7 to 12 points a season, maybe more sometimes. And maybe Andre Blake, where he's covering up, just how not great this club really was with the amount of saves that he makes. It's uncharacteristic what we've seen from Andre Blake. And it's why fans have said, I'm surprised he's not in Europe because he's this good. And, I maybe that is part of it. And then I saw Vince's comment and he said, there doesn't seem to be any leadership when Bedoya is not on the pitch, which is also true. I've noticed that too. And how telling is that, okay, there's going to be a day when Alejandro Bedoya is not with the Union anymore. And yes, Jacob Glesnes, and I'm not questioning his leadership, but I don't know. I mean, it seems like under Bedoya, when he's out there on the field, the team plays a little bit harder. They play a little bit different. And there's going to come a time when Bedoya is not with this club anymore.
And that's the thing. We've floated around the idea who would be the next captain. I think Blake is the obvious answer at this point, considering how this team has responded with and without Blake. But you wanted to see somebody like Glesnick step up. I know Elliott's been captain before. I don't think Daniel is captain material person. I don't think he's vocal enough to be that. I think Blake is more important than people realize, and we've seen it now 2 years in a row. We had the issue with Bendik last year. Now you have this back and forth with Rick and Semle. Like Andre Blake might be the most important player on this in this franchise. Period. He leads some. These players are clicking, and these mistakes are just more often. I think you're right, Todd. I think the fact that Andre Blake's gone is a bigger issue than people are realizing right now, because Oliver was playing fine and we felt confident. Now that he's not playing well or at all, it's like, what confidence is there? How can the defense feel confident in front of an
Todd, Mike, I am not a betting person. I don't know if you have your phone near you, but
Yeah, I
What
do.
what are odds for are there even betting lines for players starting in a future game?
Maybe you're like offshore typically. No, why?
Okay. What are the odds that Andrew Rick starts again on Wednesday?
Not good.
Not good, right? After today, not probably not very good. And that was, I hate to say it, but like I would say that at least two of those goals were just really none of his doing, which is tough, especially when you have Leon Flock completely turn off in a corner kick, and then put in a tough spot with Josef Martinez just sort of jumping at a ball, and Rick being like, all right, well, this dude scored over 100 goals. Like, what the hell do I do? Like, is he trying to do something cheeky that I don't know? Like, just wait, better shot of you starting. Listen, brother, I'm going to put this up and proud. Yeah, I should be starting for this team. I could be starting. Nah, I cannot be starting for this team. Yeah, I wonder what this looks like, right? Is it an Oliver Semla game? Probably, right? Especially after this game and the loss against Charlotte. It's just there are just not many options. So at this point, you're flipping coins on a lot of positions, and at what point does it become like I don't know. Is there a point where this becomes that we got to dismantle this team a little bit faster? Like, what are the odds of Jack McGlynn being with the Philadelphia Union in September, October? Especially if he has a good Olympic tournament.
Well, also you have to think the development of if you want to youth development, doing things the right way, throwing Andrew Rick fire every single week is not good for his development. Just flat out. For a goalkeeper, where confidence is like 80% having the confidence to do everything you can do. I think Andre Blake comes out and punches that ball away. I think maybe Semle comes out and punches that ball away. Andrew Rick was clearly stuck in the middle, not knowing what to do, and it's hard to fault him for that because, to your point, Jose, you have Josef Martinez leaping in there. What do you do in that situation? I think that's where experience comes in. I mean, we can probably go on for another hour about our disgruntledness. It is 11 o'clock. Todd, this is the longest you and I have been. I appreciate doing this. Again, my favorite person, hands down. So you're going on Wednesday? Tell me a little about that.
Man, yeah. I mean,
Tell us all about that, Todd. Tell us about your Chicago trip. All about it, please.
No
Yeah,
I'm going to see. I'm sure Mike knows. I'm sure he's heard. Yeah, I'm going to Chicago for the game on Wednesday. Hope to catch up with Dave Leno and maybe some other people in the Union side of things, and I'll take in the game, and hopefully the Union come away with a point. Do you guys want my play-by-play what I'm gonna do? So once I get off the plane, I'm gonna get some breakfast in Chicago. If Dave Leno can't meet up, then I'm gonna go ahead and go for a walk around the beachy area and then head to the game. On Thursday, I'm gonna go to the Cubs versus Phillies game, so I'll be a Phillies fan for a day, and then after the game, since 4th of July, a couple different places, Navy Pier, maybe check out fireworks. I'm really big into history, and I noticed and I saw that the Titanic exhibits in town. So I kind of want to check that out, but it's about 18 miles away from where I'm staying, and I'm not getting a rental car, even though I could definitely get a rental car. But I'm like, I don't want to pay for parking in the city, so I don't know. We'll see what happens. And then Friday, I have all day, so I'll do more exploring in the city. But if there's anything that fans suggest I do Wednesday or Friday, I'll definitely do it. Thursday seems like it's pretty packed, but I will take all recommendations. But should be a good time, I hope. And I know a lot of Union friends are going out there, but maybe that changes. Like some people decided to change their mind, and maybe we have no fans go out to the game on Wednesday because they're just tired of seeing just how bad this team's playing. But yeah, that's that's my idea. That's how I plan on spending my time in Chicago.
I love it.
Was not expecting that.
I got to see videos and photos, the whole thing. Yeah, Todd, I'm very jealous of you going to Wrigley Field. I've always wanted to go there.
It's pretty cool. That was not on my initial itinerary, so I'm happy that I get to change that up.
Awesome. All right. Well, good luck, and I can't wait to see all the photos and pics. And Jose, I'm sure you and I will be watching the Wednesday match from home, doing something, trying to figure it out. Any thoughts though before Wednesday night, before we close out the show? And you'll have to close it out, by the way, as a producer.
No, yes, producer with the biggest.
Hey,
air
Jose,
quotes in the world.
who's winning that game behind you?
Someone just got a yellow card, so they're it's 0-0. San Jose, LA Galaxy. So it's actually is that considered a derby? No,
it
not
is.
really,
It
right?
is.
Is it okay? So it's 0-0. But between now and Wednesday, man, like I don't know. I at this point I'm trying to work in my head, like outside of asking for an update on Bedoya and Ty Baribo, like what do you ask Jim Curtin that hasn't been asked over the past couple of weeks in terms of the run of form that this team has been in? So yeah, it's I hope for the best, like I've gotten to know folks from inside the team, ex-players, current players fairly well, communicate with them, and just, you sort of have an affinity for them, but you also sort of think about being honest and real, and like this is a time where like shit's just bad, man. It's really bad, and I think they appreciate the honesty, but as long as it's calculated and measured, not just a fire hose just spewing on them of just hatred and nastiness and whatnot. So it's a tough time for this team. It's a tough time for the staff, the players, and the coaches. And hopefully there's a way to turn it around. It's hard to place the blame on any one person, but it's also, I think, pretty sensible to say that those that have done much with very little maybe are not the ones at fault in this situation right now, just to leave it at that. But yeah, excited to cover the game on Wednesday. Unfortunately, I won't be there on Saturday. My sister-in-law, who's widowed, is coming into town with the kids, so I'm gonna be home to see them. They're gonna spend the afternoon / evening here with us, and just hang out for a while. It's a much needed family time. So if anybody watching, I know it's 11:08 at night. If you need an additional 2 tickets for the game, absolutely free of charge, please let me know. Reach out via Twitter, and I'll make sure to put them out to you guys before I sell them on SeatGeek, if anybody's even willing to buy a Union game on Saturday against the Red Bulls with the way things are going.
Hey, Jose, can we get a family picture of all you guys when your family comes in town with the mask, little sign that you do? Yeah.
With this, yeah.
Can we get the whole family to do that?
Yeah, so my kids, for those that don't know, my kids have a 4-year-old and now officially a 2-year-old. When I tell them to do tough face, they go like this. So yes, absolutely. I will post a picture of all the kids doing the Dybala tough face.
Let's go.
Awesome. Well, everybody, thanks for joining us tonight. Everybody who commented, Sean, Janice, Val, and Vince, everybody who joined us, I appreciate all you guys. I am venting and expressing the thoughts to us because despite how good or bad we be here every single week trying to cover them to the best of our ability, and we appreciate all the feedback and support as well. But again, I'm Amber1323 on Twitter. Jose R. Nunez 91 on Twitter as well. He has a Substack if you don't follow already. Todd, it's a Todd's Life on Twitter, I believe. Right?
Yep.
Okay. And also at the Free Kick Pod for everything Union. He's great goal breakdowns. Todd does a great job. You always do, Todd. So I appreciate it.
Can't wait to watch this week's. I'm sure it's going to be riveting.
Yeah. It's going to be spicy, I'm sure. But anybody, everybody, this is Across the Pitch. Go Union. Have a great night.